Hey everyone, Michelle Seidling here with another episode of Food Experience Unplugged. Today we are talking about burnout and what you can do to prevent burnout or eliminate burnout if you're going through and suffering from that. And with us today is Anngelica-Marie Eshesimoa, a burnout expert. So, Anngelica-Marie, thank you for being on the podcast today. This podcast is available on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. Please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to be informed as new episodes become available. If you enjoyed today's episode or any of our episodes, please rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform. As always, check out our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com for some resources as you begin your health journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be speaking with you all. But yes, like Michelle mentioned, my name is Anngelica-Marie, and I am the founder of Omekwa, a health and wellness company focused on helping women live a life that is supported by true self-care. Now, a little bit about my background. Before I started my health and wellness company, I was on a completely different path, a successful path in the entertainment industry. I launched my own production company in college. I was making films with people I really loved and admired, and I was starting to get awards and accolades for it. And directly out of college, I got the opportunity and blessing to be in a writer's room on a comedy show here in Los Angeles. So I was really starting to achieve, everything that I thought that I wanted for my life at the time, but I was miserable. I was extremely burnt out. I didn't feel connected to the work that I was doing, and I was focused on everything else besides myself. And when I was only 22, working in this writer's room, I discovered a benign breast tumor. I didn't know it was benign at the time. And this was something that, I wasn't even aware that I had, something wrong within me because I was focused on everything but myself. So as I dealt with that, and then we moved into 2020 and the pandemic occurring, me being furloughed from that job really made me stop and think and realize, how I was caring for myself physically, mentally, and spiritually, and just seeing the state of the world as it is right now, and how we are in such a crisis in terms of taking care of ourselves in all these facets. And that's why I built Omekwa to make creating a lifestyle of true self-care founded upon our body, our mind, and our spirit really commonplace. And I really believe it's tending to what I call the pillars of wellness that really conquers burnout. So I'm just really excited to share some of what I've learned and how I've conquered burnout with you all.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness, so much to unpack here. Well, why don't we start? Let me ask you, what causes burnout? Is some people, can be in a career similar to that or some other, professional field and they're fine. They're not burnt out versus others maybe burnt out at some point in their career. What are there some triggers? What exactly causes that?
Mhm. Yeah, when you really think of burnout, you immediately think of a lack of energy and a kind of disconnectedness from whatever work that you're doing. So when you really think of what drove you to be in that career path, usually burnout is really associated with the people who are high achievers, right? I was, that high achiever, being super dedicated, super focused. And there comes a time where it seems like you hit a wall and you kind of forget what drove you to really pursue that work in the first place. And it's because you're really disconnected from your why, the why that is attached to what you do, how you spend the majority of your days. Because you're not connected to that driving force, that is what is causing your burnout. So for me, how I really learned that I was really, disconnected from my work and what I was doing, and because I didn't have that natural fulfillment that, sustains our energy to be willing to put our all into our work, put our all into our careers, is because I was truly initially approaching my work from a place of fear. Now, when I say fear, I learned the different types of fear by the self-help author Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich and also The Law of Success. And he details the 6 major fears as fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of the lack of someone's love, fear of old age, fear of death. Now, the major ones that really contribute to, I guess, that innate push to really succeed and do everything that you can is really rooted in that fear of poverty, that fear of criticism, and that fear of the loss of someone's love. For me, I was always really driven to succeed and achieve because I wanted to create a source of financial stability for myself that, I didn't experience when I was younger, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. That's why we usually want to achieve success, is that immediate security. But you have to realize, when you approach life and anything you do in life from wanting to achieve security, you will never ever truly feel secure. And because of that, it eventually wears you out. And I guess another way to phrase it is really fight or flight. Your career and how you've pushed yourself so much has been truly a fight, really, because you're fighting to create stability, you're fighting for recognition, you're fighting for all these things except for yourself, that true passion, why you are doing it in the first place. So eventually, even if you have, all these accolades and things, you're going to get burnt out because there's only so long you can fight.
Mm.
So for me, really shifting out of that space of burnout to still be able to build my business, as a young entrepreneur and trying to figure everything out, I shifted out of that place and mindset of fear to one of passion and genuine excitement by really focusing on the pillars of wellness, focusing on my body, focusing on my mind, focusing on my spirit, and creating a framework that prevented me from succumbing to all the natural things that we encounter in life that induce fear in us. So yeah, I would really love to go in depth with that. I want to open up to any questions you have, Michelle, because I know I said a lot, but yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely. Now, with that, you mentioned that people often lose their why, their purpose for doing that. Do you feel, because you mentioned you were very successful in the entertainment industry for several years, did you feel like you had a why at the beginning, but just kind of gradual? Did fear took over, or how did that happen that you lost your why essentially, or you lost that purpose or that drive?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely started going into it with the why. My why for entering the entertainment industry, and I think I've really transferred that why to what I do now. I really wanted to create a sense of recognition and belonging in whoever came across my work. That's something that I always wanted to do because I grew up kind of really a lonely child. So art and just the power of words was how I connected with people. But, naturally, as we, I think, take our whys into different structures, right? There's some things that naturally come in contravention to, I guess, who we are and how we feel like we can properly operate and succeed in different ways. So for me, I think I really lost touch of that why when I got caught up in trying to get the accolades, trying to get the recognition so I can go to the next step in my career, trying to, meet the gatekeeper so I can get that why fulfilled. And truly, the fear of being successful really overcame what was my mission in the first place. So I think, when we approach anything, because, I think we always enter into a job and career with good intentions. We're driven to it for a reason. We believe we can offer, a specific skill or talent that we have to it. But I think when we let um, the structures or certain people, or again, those obstacles overcome us, that's when we really succumb to burnout because we just become disconnected from ourselves and therefore, disconnected from our why.
Okay. So then you had the health issues, which caused you to kind of reflect. So
Mhm.
did at that point, Did your why shift to, in this case, the self-care industry and that avenue, and as opposed to your prior career?
Yes, 100%. And it's a funny story because Omekwa, my business, my mother actually wanted to start Omekwa years ago, and I always brushed her off. I was like, "No, mom, I'm supposed to be in entertainment. I'm supposed to make films. Supposed to make movies. Da da da." But once I had these health issues, and I really leaned on her to give me recommendations for different herbs and tinctures to use to manage my anxiety, manage my depression, make sure that I was physically well. I just realized how so many other people like me got caught up in the building, got caught up in the career, got caught up in the success that we forget about ourselves. And I think it's so important to realize that you cannot achieve all those external things and build the career and life you want if your foundation, yourself, your health, your body, your mind, your spirit is not truly strengthened and fortified. So, I truly feel even more deeply connected and rooted to my why right now because I still want to build community and recognition and belonging, through the power of all these natural remedies and teaching people how to properly use them and build a lifestyle, that is healthy and great.
Absolutely. I love that.
Mhm.
Now, with that, you found your why. Um, you mentioned that there were several pillars that you focus on. Will you tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about those pillars?
Yes. So a little backstory about these pillars. Last year, as I was starting to build my business, because I launched in 2021, um, again, the fear naturally set in and I succumbed to burnout and also a 3 month long depressive episode. Um, so in really rebuilding myself through that bottom and getting myself out of it, through the power of books and different methods, I developed the self care success system. And it's really founded upon the pillars of body, mind, and spirit. So the body pillar, that's really focusing on healthy daily habits that we implement in our lives to create that structure of living well. Oftentimes, self care is really talked about in the physical sense and just one off things like the bubble baths, the spa days, all those things. Those are perfectly well and good, but they don't truly sustain you and create that foundation for wellness. So that body pillar is really teaching people how to build those habits. And I learned the importance of that through the book Atomic Habits, which is a great book, and using different herbal remedies to really address those core issues and problems that we have physically. Because if we're in pain, if we're dealing with all these different issues, things that we've learned to accept and brush aside for the more important things in life, like work, we still will never achieve that true balance and stability we need. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is the mind pillar, and it's one of the most important pillars. Now, the core teaching of the mind pillar is to rewrite our story. So oftentimes we have a very negative story in view about ourselves that has been written by people other than us, usually founded upon childhood, different things we experienced, whether that was feeling like we always needed to please people or feeling that we could never be enough, right? A lot of those stories are rooted in fear. And usually in our daily lives now, things we come across, they just tend to feed into that negative story and cause us to be burnt out. So that pillar really focuses on figuring out what negative stories are you telling about yourself. And again, for me, my negative story was that if my business wasn't successful, if my business was quote unquote a failure, I inherently was a failure. And that really led to my burnout. So I really had to rework and rewrite that story with several books that I used and the framework that I used to really help people go in depth into that
Mhm.
and write a new, better story. And of course, another really important part of rewriting your story is the characters that you have within it.
Mm.
So, subconsciously, when we have a story and we know the typical characters, if you have that negative story, the typical characters in your life are going to be people who devalue you, dismiss you, and you're naturally going to attract those people and have those people in your life because that is the only story that you know. So really taking a look of, who's in your friend circle, even your familial relationships, your work relationships, and seeing how you can implement and draw in better characters in your life who also want the best for you, who want to support you and to help you write a beautiful story, because you cannot write a story alone. And then the final pillar is the spirit pillar. This is my favorite pillar. And the spirit pillar is all about purpose and community. Now, I did mention that, your why and being disconnected from your why is why you have burnout. So the spirit pillar is really about helping you find and rediscover that why and truly stick to it through a spiritual practice. Now, a spiritual practice doesn't have to be, waking up at 5 a.m. and staring at the sun and being one with the sun. It doesn't have to be that. A spiritual practice is truly building that time into your day when you are truly not affected by anyone else. You can just listen to yourself. We often don't give ourselves the time and the grace and the honor of just sitting with ourselves and being with ourselves and knowing that we naturally have the answer. And again, on the flip side of that is being within a community. I think, nowadays it's really easy to fall into an individualistic mindset and feel like we have to bear things on our own. I know that's a really common trait of people who have burnout is that they carry the world on their shoulders. But you have to realize that when you have a community, it just makes it all the more easier to live well and fortify all your pillars because you have accountability. You have people who are reflecting the person that you hope to be and hope to become. And because inherently your purpose, your why, is directly tied to how you impact other people. Whys aren't done in isolation. Whys aren't the manifestation of, physical things, money, position. That is not a why. A why is how you find recognition in someone else, you serve someone else in only the way that you can. And it's something that you can always do and always give freely. And it's something that will genuinely make you happy and sustain you. So the body pillar, the mind pillar, and the spirit pillar of the self care success system, fortifying these pillars and making them the foundation of a lifestyle that is peaceful, that is purposeful, that is prosperous. That is how you conquer burnout.
Mhm. I love that. Wow, just really holistic. You're addressing many different areas and really focusing in ultimately on your fulfillment and your purpose. That's fantastic. Now, how have you built up those in your own routines?
Mhm. Yeah, so just to walk you through a typical day and just to preface this, building up my routine to where it's habitual, it took time. It always takes time, but you have to start small. So the first thing that I did was implement yoga into my routine, yoga and meditation. I still do very, very simple yoga. I stick to like the same like 10 flows. But doing this in the morning before even looking at my email, before even communicating with anyone, it just grounds me and it makes me more resilient to any challenges that come my way as an entrepreneur. And truly, because I know a lot of people may be hesitant to approach and do yoga because they just see one type of person doing yoga, like the super flexible, has all like the yoga clothes, yoga gear. You don't need that. It's truly just allowing yourself to really get into your body and truly move your body and allow your body to relax. And a lot of the practice of yoga, it's mostly a mental thing and the mind body connection. So once I did that, I became just more connected to my body and understanding of it and really kind to my body. And the small habits that I built, to sustain my body pillar, is just drinking a cup of my herbal teas every morning and every night. I have my herbal teas here. I usually drink the protected blend because I tend to get sick easily and it's just a really rejuvenating blend. So I drink that every single day. So doing that really built up, hey, this is something for me that I won't put aside for other people because I have the fear of serving other people or I have to do constant things to be successful and to be okay. No, this is for me. The second thing I did to really build up my mind pillar, it was a twofold process. I started reading a lot more. Books are truly the foundation of my mental health and my mental well-being, because they really keep me focused on the future while grounding me in the present, just learning from people. The first book that I read was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I just built upon that from there. So how I would recommend you to implement that type of learning into your life, because I truly believe learning and being a person who is inclined to learn is such a key critical thing to battling burnout, because instead of focusing on being someone who just does, you're focusing on being someone who's receiving knowledge. You're truly just receiving. That's all reading and learning is just being open to receiving. So I read those books, mostly audiobooks. And if you want a wealth of free personal development audiobooks, I highly recommend using the Hoopla app. You just need to get a library card, sign up for the app. I did it in under 20 minutes, and there are thousands of hours worth of personal development books and knowledge. So, on the flip side of that, I drastically reduced how much TV I watched. I came from the entertainment world. Watching TV was all I did. But TV was not serving me. I couldn't even tell you some of the plot lines of the shows that I've watched in the past year. They haven't really added anything to me. So I really slowly reduced my TV intake and I cut myself off. I don't log into Netflix. Hulu is the last one standing. It's going to go eventually, but you have to really recognize those things in your life that are sucking your energy and your attention and not giving back to you. In all areas of your life. I know you're so used to giving, but you really have to be in a mind state of, okay, what's going to give to me? What's going to pour into me? And then the final thing that I did to really strengthen my spirit pillar is to get out of my shell and reach out more and form relationships and connections. Again, I've always been a very, self-sufficient person, lone wolf, out of a sense of fear and out of the sense that I could only, uh, do better for myself if I did it by myself. But in running a business and building a business and trying to build yourself up in any type of way, you need people. You can't do that in isolation. So as I started to connect with people through social media, other wellness practitioners, herbalists, even being on this podcast right now is something that is feeding my spirit, because I'm able to connect with people who also are endeavoring to uplift themselves and uplift other people. So if you can even find, one or two people that you know and really have in-depth conversations with them, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, are you rooted in yourself right now? Those may seem like very direct questions because we're not taught how to really communicate with people on a spirit level, right? But it's something that is so essential to keeping you accountable and keeping you inspired to live well, because the way our society is right now, it's not easy to live well. It's not easy to support all those other pillars. So you need people. So that's what I did.
I love that. Now, in addition to your own routines, are there others with whom you've worked with your clients and so forth who, who are addressing these types of things?
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd say the major thing for them and what I really encourage my clients to do is daily journaling and reflection. And this is a commonality that I've seen in all the personal development books that I've read, because I've read like dozens, is
Sure.
that there is power in the written word, writing your thoughts, and also speaking them into action. So oftentimes it's very easy for us to get distracted by the minutia and other things that, don't matter. But, have you really taken the time to really ask yourself and say out loud and affirm out loud where you want to be in 3 years, where you want to be in 5 years? So the constant daily practice of writing down, in the law of success, Napoleon Hill calls this the chief definite aim. Writing down where you really see yourself in 5 years, that fullest, highest expression of you. I've noticed that for me doing that, and clients and other people that I've talked to, constantly focusing on that and keeping their attention on that, because, wherever your attention goes, that grows, is
Mhm.
something that's just so, so important to do. And I'm not going to lie, it's a very hard habit to keep up. It seems simple enough, just writing down your goals, looking at them every morning, every night, and just saying it out loud to really train. It has a very scientific basis to it in terms of subconsciously training yourself to focus on a positive future and seeing what you can do in the now to help that manifest. And again, that's why it's really important to have people in your life to keep you accountable. So you do that simple daily thing of daily reflection, goal setting, focusing on your goals, and actually doing the work to follow it through. So that's the major thing.
Oh, I love that. That is fantastic to just really think and iron out, finding your why and other aspects.
Mhm.
Now, in your situation, you did a career change from the entertainment industry to more the health and wellness. Um,
Mhm.
with regard to, if other people are in burnout, does it necessarily require a career change, or can you find your why no matter what industry you're in, whether you're in entertainment or medicine or some other field? Is it what's the kind of the key thread to deciding, okay, maybe I need to make a career change, or maybe not, maybe my why is right here?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I'm so glad you asked that. So, if you're burnt out in your current career path, and again, burnout isn't just tied to career, it could be your family situation as well, especially, caretakers, women who are building careers in their home life. There are three major things, tools, I guess, to assess whether you need to make that change or not. So there is the tool of acceptance, the tool of change, or the tool of letting go. So I'll start with letting go. That's the career change. That's if you've really looked at and assessed the situation and whether it's you're in a hostile work environment, your actual job function isn't really suited to what you want to do after you've done that long reflection, and you've done everything in your power that you could to, talk to your boss, talk to your superior, and see if there is a way you can craft a role within your company that still offers a lot of value but is suited to you. One example in one of the books that I've read was just seeing if it's a matter of hours, really, just seeing how you can communicate to your supervisor in terms of, hey, I can provide more value if I approach the work like this, control your schedule. There are certain things that you can do. So it's really a matter of seeing what are the pain points in your job or what are the pain points in your current family dynamic. And usually the biggest issue with that is your boundaries. Your boundaries really applies to, the tools of either acceptance, change, or letting go. If you feel like your boundary is being constantly crossed in terms of, demands on your time from your employer, from, your family even, because you deserve boundaries. If you're a caretaker, you need your boundaries. You have to really ask yourself, have you asserted your boundaries? That is huge because people cannot honor your boundaries if you haven't communicated them properly. So that's the aspect of change. If you recognize that a change needs to happen and it's affecting your boundaries, communicate them. After you've communicated these changes that you need, and a book I recommend to help you do that is Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free. It's a short book and it really goes into, how to really find and discover those boundaries, why you haven't been asserting those boundaries, and how to communicate them in a really healthy way. So that really ties to change. Acceptance is really seeing if something is really triggering you from a past belief that you have, but it really shouldn't be triggering you. That really ties into anxieties you might have on a job in terms of always putting constant pressure on yourself and feeling like you need to be perfect or you need to over succeed and achieve. You're really crossing, your own boundaries in that sense. And that's really taking, in the process of acceptance, really recognizing what your triggers are. Again, why you have those beliefs. It's all within the mind pillar and rewriting that story. So those typical things that really contributed to your burnout, they're not really affecting you that much anymore, especially because you're tending to your body pillar. You have that time in your life that's just for you, that's for no one else but you. You've rewritten that story. And spiritually, you've refound and you're putting more priority on your purpose in your work instead of being so concerned about how you are perceived. So I know I jumped around a little bit there, but just to resynthesize it in terms of no, your burnout, you don't have to completely up and quit your job to escape your burnout. Because if you still have those mental frameworks and patterns, you will carry that into any job you have. So it's really seeing, hey, is this something that I can change in my job, in my home life? Is this something that I can accept and figure out what mental patterns are contributing to, this mental anxiety, this physical anxiety? Or is this a situation that I need to completely let go of and be able to reassess and move forward from a place of strength?
I love that. And then I'm thinking that you probably need to reassess those things from time to time as well.
Yes, it's a constant check-in because truly in life is a constant ever evolving lesson. I have lessons and revelations about myself every single month. So that's why, again, a spiritual practice is so important because you're checking in with yourself daily. Because when you check in with yourself daily, you're not allowing these subconscious patterns or beliefs to completely overwhelm you and overtake your life because you're really addressing it before it does so. This is recognizing when emotions come up in certain work situations, in family situations, and really taking the time to not let them overcome you, but objectively analyze them. Don't judge them, but say, hey, why am I feeling this way? And seeing how your pillars, your body, your mind, and your spirit can help create a foundation for you to address those challenges.
I love that. I love that. Just constant reassessment, just looking at the situation. It's so powerful.
Mm.
Now, with as we wrap up here, do you have any tips or any words of wisdom for those, whether they're in the throes of burnout or maybe trying to prevent it optimally?
Mm. I would say the biggest thing I can say to you if you are battling burnout right now is your fears right now are temporary. And beneath that all, your fears are really pointing to what your strength is.
Mm,
Fears usually come up when we are closer and closer to facing who we are, what our own powers are, what our own talents are. And I'd really encourage you to not let burnout overcome you by being a constant learner. Let every setback, let every obstacle that you face be a lesson that fortifies you and makes you wiser as you go along. If you really shift yourself into a learning mindset, any situation that you come across that brings up those natural feelings of fear, which I don't want you to feel ashamed to have, they're natural. I want you to say, hey, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to learn why this is making me scared, and I'm going to do my best to conquer it.
I love that. It's super powerful and really being able to help people focus in. Well, Angelica-Marie, how can people get in contact with you?
Yes. So you can get in contact with me on my Instagram. It is Angelica, always Angelica with two N's. And then you can also visit the Omekwa website, omekwa.com. And that's where I have all the herbal remedies, really focusing on energy, which is perfect for my people with burnout, sleep and stress relief, inflammation and immunity, and then hormonal balance. So on there, we have a bunch of resources where we don't just give you the product and say good luck. We really want you to learn how to properly implement those things and really strengthen and fortify your body pillar. And then, of course, the Tea Corner podcast that I have discussions really focusing on these pillars, on all aspects of life. And that is my favorite place to connect with people and really help you grow. And you all help me grow as well. So, yeah.
Fantastic. We will include all of those things in the show notes. Anngelica-Marie, it's been amazing. I love your pillars, your areas of focus to really, really hone in and assess your own strengths and areas for improvement and really help people to ideally prevent burnout, but at least identify and make those necessary changes. So thank you so much for being here on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey everyone, Michelle Seidling here at Food Experience Unplugged. Are you enjoying the Food Experience Unplugged podcast and are ready to ramp it up a level? Then it's time to go premium. With a premium podcast membership, in addition to all the great podcast episodes you know and love, you'll receive additional bonus content and exclusive interviews from many of our podcast guests. You'll receive a live Q&A access each month where I'll address questions pertaining to holistic health and how you can start your journey. You'll also receive weekly shorter video clips with information on tips, tricks, and strategies to get started, to build consistent habits, and to take charge of your health. Go premium today. I'll see you there.